that, let us call a regular board meeting, Aspen School District, Monday, March 1st. Eliza, can you call the roll, please?
Sure. Katie Frisch.
Present.
Susan Marolt.
Here.
Jonathan Nickel.
Here.
Dwayne Romero.
Here.
And Susie Zimmett.
Here.
All live. Thank you.
Next, let us adopt the agenda. Do I hear a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved. Oh, second.
Okay, real quick. Katie Frisch.
Aye.
Susan Marolt.
Aye.
Jonathan Nickel.
Aye.
Dwayne Romero.
Aye.
And Susie Zimmett.
Aye.
So moved. Thank you.
And then, so board members updates. Anybody have anything they want to say? I do a couple things, but if other people do it, they can start. I will start. I just wanted to say that I had a chance to review. We kind of touched on our results indicators just briefly. We just kind of mentioned them recently. And I took some time to review them and share and kind of go over them. Dave reviewed them, and they actually, we think they look good, and I don't think we're going to have to spend a whole lot of time revising them. I did send an email to the CDE just to get their input on it. There's somebody there, Floyd Cobb, who's apparently exceptional at this kind of thing. But I have a feeling they're going to say that they're pretty good too. So I just wanted us to know that I don't think we're going to have to totally, my take is that we're not going to have to totally revise our academic indicators for our results policies, which we will have to get to before the end of this year. So, you know, within in a couple months. So, and then Jonathan, I wanted you to know that the targets and measures on those indicators do include both STAR and state tests, CMAS and SAT and PSAT. So you had wanted the state ones, and I had suggested the STAR ones, and it turns out that our targets and measures have both in it. So we can go into that in greater detail when we get to that. I just wanted to share that. And then I wanted to mention that Jonathan and Eliza and maybe Dwayne and maybe our rep who's going to be joining us today, and maybe Blake Appleby, we need to start a housing committee pretty quickly, because there are these one-off housing opportunities that arise, and we don't want to miss them, but we need people who know what's going on to look at all the documents and all the details before it comes to the board, and or at least the president to sign, and Dave. I think there's a lot of work that a committee could do, and a couple people have graciously agreed to start this committee. Eliza, can you take it from here to once we hear from the rep, and Dwayne could give his input on how to go forward from here. But I just want to make sure it's not falling through the cracks, waiting for my signature when I have to read 20 pages and I have to look up definitions of real estate words. And I just don't think it's the most efficient way for us to develop or purchase property. Does that sound reasonable to everybody?
Yeah, owners reps coming in. You have, obviously, like you said, you got some talent on the board as well. And we're not asking you to become a real estate expert. In fact, you heard it on the front end, why we have a contingency window to deliberate some of these first early acquisitions. And as you point out, yeah, this is a bit of a transition window. So appreciate your patience. But I think the community will be excited around the kind of this, quick and early start for us to get after improving and increasing our housing counts, and trying to do it in a way that it's product diverse, but it's also geographically diverse. Kind of, very much fits with some of the survey feedback we received from staff members within the organization. So, but I appreciate you bringing it up, Susie. It's gonna this thing will settle in and you'll get into a rhythm here whereby hopefully we have a few important acquisitions, but just as importantly, we have several partnering opportunities for organic development in the coming months and years.
I have just a quick question. I know we've talked about having a housing committee also just for our existing inventory. Is this the same committee you're thinking or different?
We've talked about it, but do we have one?
No, we do not. I don't think so. I mean, I think
would,
Have a loan
yeah,
committee.
and as it relates to that, I mean, that's an organizational, that's an operational function and area. So I'd really like to look to the CEO. I'd like to look to Dave to try to, if he needs to broaden some of the leadership around that piece of the asset inventory, then so be it.
yeah, I just wanted to
if-
clarify because I know
Yeah.
that has come up in some
But yeah, I see
staff
that as an,
requests and whatnot.
yeah, in the past, the conversations has been more about operational improvements, operational excellence, trying to strengthen the oversight and the maintenance, care, upkeep, and periodic improvement of our existing inventory. So that's all operational stuff.
Yep.
This is, I see it as slightly different, whatever. I just,
Yep.
again, I keep looking back to Dave as he's, this is going to be one of many initiatives that he's going to take leadership on.
And if I may, I do think that this is sort of a newer focus group. This is around the acquisitions of new materials. I know internally, Jorge, Dan, and Linda have all been working diligently around evaluating current housing stock. We'll probably have an RFP coming out around that in the next, within the next month. But we wanted the owner's rep to advise us on that as well. But I know Dan and Linda have been working at least since I got here and since Dan got here around how the existing stock is assigned and maintained and that sort of thing. So we do kind of have the bones of that in place. But yeah, what I think Susie's talking about is the new acquisitions, and we've had several projects kind of hopping in the last few weeks. So that's
Right.
required some attention, and it's been ad hoc thus far, and I think we're trying to shift it from the ad hoc to the we're here.
Yep.
All right. And then I just had a final comment. A number of stakeholders have expressed concerns about, and I think the 1619 project, which I think at least our English department may be dabbling in, I'm not sure, but and have suggested looking at alternatives that are more uplifting, like the 1776 United program, which I looked at, I've researched a bit, and has these incredibly inspiring stories of former slaves and a Black man and a white man starting 5,000 schools for Blacks in the South, and just full of incredibly inspiring stories, which seem sort of less heavy and more inspiring. And I just wanted to put that out there, that there is concern and there are some alternatives that we might want to look at. I'm done. Anybody else, any other board member have any comments? If none, let's go to 4.2 public comment, and we have one, Vincent Johnson. Is he here?
I am, thank you.
Great. Vincent, go ahead. It's all yours.
Sorry, I have to read here. Thank you for this opportunity to speak at tonight's meeting. My name is Vince Johnson. I'm currently a paraprofessional at Aspen Middle School. I'm leaving the Aspen School District, and I'm after 17 years, and I wanted to take this time to express my concerns for this community and my reasons for leaving. A year ago, we found ourselves faced with an unimaginable world and challenges no one could have predicted, but we came together. With the support and flexibility of the middle school staff and administration, we managed to finish last school year with some successes and a sense of pride in knowing that we were all part of a greater community and in this together. We had blind faith that the Board of Education and district level administration would work diligently throughout the summer to create a safe and well thought out plan for everyone's return when it was deemed safe for students and staff alike. The beginning of this academic year proved that as a district, we were nowhere near prepared, PPE was not present. Guidelines had not been created. Ventilation systems were not adequate. Ever-changing schedules and meetings ad nauseum. There were many ideas and concerns, yet no plan. Then the backlash began. On these very board meetings, they came from district level administration, the Board of Education, and families all at once. We, the frontline educators, were to blame for everything. We didn't try hard enough. We weren't willing to risk enough. We didn't care about our students, etc. These meetings were filled with a barrage of misinformation and endless rhetoric. There were decrees that everything is fine and we just need to remain silent, do what we were told. We were shamed publicly. Some voices were heard much louder than others, and their influence seemed to outweigh our concerns. Our district leadership fostered an environment of mistrust, anger, and fear in an already stressful situation. The push to resume to normal fell squarely on the shoulders of those of us that sacrificed the most for our students. Our pleas that we were too short-staffed to simply even monitor our students, let alone teach them, went unheard. I was stunned to discover that there was no community, and we were obviously not in this together. The current work environment is beyond toxic, and I can no longer be a witness to the bullying and hatred. The AEA, upper administration, and a couple of board members met last week and decided to finally discuss some of these issues. For myself, this is too little, too late. I've worked for the district with very challenging and difficult situations at the high school and middle school for these 17 years. I know struggles, success, and failures, and yet this is what has broken me. Thank you to all my colleagues and for all of your support throughout the years, but please, could our district leadership take some time to self-reflect and think about what is truly best for our entire community? Thank you.
Thank you, Vince, and thank you for your 17 years of service here.
Yeah, I would just say sorry to see you go. Wish it wasn't that way. Obviously, I think we have, at least I personally, I'm not going to speak for the board, have a much different perception of how events played out. And I think a lot of the things you said were just not necessarily something that we would agree upon. And so neither here nor there, just to say, look, I'm sorry to see you go. And I wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors, and good luck.
I agree with Jonathan. I didn't see the year that way, but we're all sitting in a different position. And I too am sorry that is the impression that you have of this past year. And we're sorry to see you go.
And I would just say, regardless of whether we saw the year that way, these are, I think, concerning comments and feelings, and we need to acknowledge them and address them. And I think, we're hopefully taking steps in that direction, but, this is something that I think we have been looking at for 3 years now, really, since we first started the climate and culture study. And, there are things that we can't control. Sometimes our budget, sometimes our, money situation, but we can control the atmosphere and the respect and the feelings that people have. And I think we need to work on that.
Yeah, I think we're having office hours, we're having board meetings. Jonathan and Dwayne just met with the AEA leadership last week. And I think we do have a lot of plans to make things better all around. Have everybody feel that things are getting better all around.
Well, and we can't just say it's getting better. We need to actually, hear from people that it is. So, I'm happy that we're moving in that direction, but I think we just we have some work to do.
Anybody else have a comment? Shall we move on to superintendent update? I hope we're having some exciting news in the superintendent's update.
Well, we have some good news, I think, moving ahead. I'll ask Eliza to drive since she controls the screens. Okay, we'll get started with slide 2. We're okay, this is slide 2, principal update from AMS. Amy Konzorski is joining us. Wanted to just talk a little bit about the process to get here. We had a search committee that worked diligently on this. It was a bit larger than 11 when it started, but it wound up at 11 teachers, administrators, and parents. As most folks know, we had 26 applicants from across the country. There was a number of rounds of interviewing that occurred to whittle it down to the final 2, who underwent a grueling full-day interview with many teachers, many parents, many students, and several board members. Amy emerged as a strong contender from early on in the application process. She brings a wealth of experience to the conversation. She's a proven middle school educator as well as a proven district office leader and classroom teacher. And so we want to welcome Amy. Amy, are you here?
I am working to be here. Sorry, just finished another meeting. So yes, it's my pleasure to be here. And thank you for those kind words. And I would say a grueling day of interviews was way more fun than sometimes my day-to-day grueling right now. So thank you to everyone who I got to meet already. And I look forward to meeting those of you who we haven't had that opportunity yet. I do bring to you lots of years of experience, I guess. And sometimes that just means I'm old, but 31 years in public education, have been spread out, 11 years as a teacher in Hawaii and California and Colorado and Wyoming. And then my last 20 years of school district administration. So I've been a vice principal and a principal of a middle school for 14 years, both in Durango, Colorado, and in Waimea, Hawaii. And then I've done 6 hours. Oh, it's been more than 6 hours, 6 years of district office leadership, supporting student support services. So exceptional needs, gifted and talented, special education, health and nursing, safety and discipline, and all those kinds of things on a district level. So I look forward to jumping in both feet forward at Aspen Middle School. I think it's a privilege and an honor. I'm just on the other side of the mountains from you right now, coming from Eagle, Colorado. So not a big move, but a big move. So we'll look forward to mapping that out as the days and weeks go ahead.
Great, Amy. We're thrilled to have you joining the team and really looking forward to having your expertise and looking forward to working with you for years to come.
Thank you. And I look forward to the same thing. And Theron, I have to say that I was warned that you were a speech and debate coach today for many years with my current superintendent. So he just told me about many long hours calculating speech and debate scores, that I can look forward to many long hours doing different things now.
Great.
Tell Dr. Coleman I appreciate that.
I will do that.
Welcome aboard, Amy.
Thank you. It's
Yeah,
nice to see the familiar faces, and like, it's good to see you without a mask on. Like, I swear I'm gonna have to
Right.
see you all again and again and again because it's been with a mask on. So I don't know if I would recognize your eyes or not. So if we've met and I meet you again, please just remind me that we've already met, and just give me that background.
We will certainly do that. And all right, so back to the update. I'm going to kind of kick it over to Mr. Mulberry to talk a little bit about some of the work that we've been working on. I think we might need to add a bullet here, Mr. Mulberry, to include the 1776 Unites. But Theron, if you could talk a little bit about some of what's been going on with both IB and the literacy work.
Darren, you're talking on mute.
And we'll even buy him an N for next week. But Mr. Mulberry, are you okay?
Yes, here we go. Sorry, I had a little bit of technical difficulty there.
Speech and debate my rear end. All right, there we go.
Yeah, not so good so far. I will say this, that we just to let you guys know, just to remind everyone, we started the IB exploration team. We've had 2 meetings. We've had an opportunity to review most of the program from the PYP and the MYP lens, and now we're going to be moving into a real deep dive into the unit planning that happens at both levels. We've had a lot of information that was shared to us from the team, questions that staff would like to have answered. Will it create new positions? What impact will it have on current programs? What will have to happen in order to make this happen? Will there be text expectations? Lots of ideas and concerns about the program, but we're also seeing a lot of people that are very excited about things that we're going to do. We're planning an IB Arms visit. We're planning to have a presentation for the parents. We're hoping probably towards the ends of this month or maybe even early April. We had to kind of adjust our timeline to accommodate for the meeting of this exploration team. We also are hoping to get another meeting out with the staff in each of the buildings after this team has had a chance to familiarize themselves with it, give them a little deeper dive with the middle school and the elementary school and what this will look like, and not just have just such a tentative agenda. Then obviously we'll be looking at any of the issues that we'd have with implementation as well. So there's a lot of work that's being done by this team. Tomorrow, we actually have another meeting with the on Wednesday, we have another meeting with the IB exploration team. You guys are welcome to join at any time. I'll make sure that you get an invite if you'd like to be a fly on the wall during some of those discussions, so you can kind of get a background in what that looks like. Also today, we had a chance to begin and continue the work with the literacy program, early literacy. We met as a cohort today and plan on have a large meeting on the 10th with members of Mr. Baston's leadership team and a few select English language arts teachers at the middle school, and discuss our next moves with literacy. Lots of work currently being done at the elementary school level, particularly with early literacy. Our work so far is centered around just talking about where are we now and what's our plan for moving forward. Just to remind the board, we're deep into letters training with Lori Anderson, and the elementary school is also working on both Lexia and Hedegarden, and some in-depth DIBELS training is some other work that they're working on, and some resources that we'll be looking at as a team, and was recommended by our curriculum audit. We'll be looking at the American Reading Company, and we've had a preliminary meeting so far with them and reviewed some of the offerings that they have there. And Dave has had a chance to talk to Expedition Learning, which will also be a group that we'd be looking at and doing a presentation for that literacy exploration team. So lots of things happening out there. And again, when we have those meetings, I'll make sure you guys get invites so you can be a fly on the wall if you'd like to be at those meetings.
Thank you, Theron. Appreciate that update.
Dave, can I interject one question here?
Sure.
Darren? I just wanted to ask if the work in the literacy area is consistent with the potential for IB primary years program as well.
So that's one of the things that we're going to be very careful about when we go in. We're looking at making sure that really the umbrella of most of the school work would be under that IB curriculum idea, which would be the philosophy that would tie everybody together. And then when we're looking at the literacy team, we'd be looking at the actual tools that would be addressing literacy. So either one would plug into an IB curriculum or an IB
Framework.
model, but that would be the thing that would be a little bit more explicit tools around literacy. So that's what we'd be looking for. And those are, you'd still be doing your themes, you would still be doing the inquiry-based model that you're expected to do in IB, but you would still need to have a reading program that would work there. And that's why we're looking at those very specific sort of literacy groupings for the pre-K through 8 program.
Great. Any more questions? All right. Thank you, Theron. All right, there's been some strong interest from the board in summer school. Historically, there hasn't been a lot of interest in school in the summer. So we're looking at a summer camp with an academic focus. I want to thank Catherine Sand for making a strong connection to Access After School. They are a professional provider of after-school activities as well as summer camps. We don't have to watch the promo video for Access After School. We can do that later. I just included that as sort of a reference. We are working with them and trying to firm up the details, including cost. But we are looking at July 6th to August 6th, which is about 5 weeks. It's tentatively scheduled, for a full day, starting around 8:30 until about 4:30, about 5 days, well, not about, but 5 days per week. We know daycare is just as important in the summer months as it is during the school year. The morning would be academic focused and the PM is fun times, hiking, biking, fishing, orienteering, rollerblading, no, skateboarding, a whole bunch of different activities. We've surveyed our staff and we'll be launching a survey later to see about student interest. We're going to be launching that probably tomorrow morning. The entire day is considered rewarding. And then the Fridays are field trip days, but there is a strong sort of literacy numeracy piece to this. Access After School is working from basalt schools down to Rifle. And so this is kind of a natural extension for them to come a little further south and fold Aspen into their portfolio. They seem like really, really good people, and they have a simple, elegant model. And we have a meeting scheduled to try to hash out greater details. But we did want to put this on people's radar this evening. Like I said, we'll be sending out, including this promo video. It talks a lot about the summer camps that they've been running, and ours would look pretty similar to that. But we did want to get this on folks' radar. We know it's been of interest to the board. And so this is starting to come together as we move forward. I can attempt to answer some questions now, but we'll have a lot more details in the near future. So
one question now, Dave.
Yeah.
What grades does this speak to?
Oh, yes, great question. Thank you. It's 1st through 8th grade. So we would have 2 campuses. Some of the nuts and bolts would be that there would be a district employee who would run the camp part of the programming, so that the principals and assistant principals wouldn't be doing this while they're in their buildings. And then we would work closely with facilities to make sure that they can continue to do the great job that they have been doing this year. But we're looking at, current students, 1st through 8th graders. Other questions? All right. We will provide another update at the next board meeting.
The only comment I would make, Dave, is hopefully it can be targeted based on what we learned from the different, testing and stuff we've gotten from there, as opposed to just kind of a blanket, somebody there to help.
Yeah, well, that's a great recommendation, Jonathan. And probably what we will do is strongly invite certain students to this opportunity. And one of the things we'll be working hard on is making sure that it's very affordable because Access After School has been in existence for, I think, almost a decade. They're getting a lot of funding for their current state camps from the state. And so it's tiny negligible fee, but so we'll have some cost associated with it since it's our startup year. But this could be a wonderful opportunity for the district in the years to come. And we would probably be able to be included in a state grant request for next year. But we would definitely target students at risk based on current testing. And we'll have even better information in May as to who exactly should take advantage of this opportunity. So it will be an academic basis and focus. It's lots of hands-on interactive activities, small groups, 1 to 10, 1 to 8, that sort of thing. And then older students would be recruited to peer mentor. And they would also, of course, be eligible for the daycare, the camping opportunity, camp type opportunities.
Yeah, but maybe, I guess my hope would be that we could almost give students, almost every student, and not only the ones that are able to attend this, some kind of learning plan of suggested things that they could do over the summer if possible. And that then could be what kids work on either via this or via whatever. So that would be maybe a very aspirational hope on my part, understanding the incredible workload that could put potentially on teaching staff and things along those lines. But, understanding that for a lot of kids, they definitely have not learned what they would have learned in a normal year, and being able to help them have some kind of targeted plan to be able to close those gaps, I think should be a goal that we try and have as we move into the summer months.
We'll see what we can do.
So,
made a note.
Dave, do we have any different plans for the high school age kids? Related to maybe some learning gaps that they, as Jonathan was speaking about, that they may have had over the last year?
We do have, Sarah has a plan for some credit recovery and for some extension of learning. And the principals will be talking shortly, and hopefully she can brief us then.
Perfect, thank you.
Dave, is there a limit to how many students the summer school can accommodate?
Well, we have about 18 to 20 staff members who have expressed interest in working in the program. And if we have a class size of 10, that would be about 180 to 200 students.
Great, thank you.
Certainly. All right, look at that. Sarah Strasburger, you're first.
Oh, that was a perfect segue. Happy March, everybody. I will start with the summer school so I don't forget. So in years past, we've used Odyssey-ware as a credit recovery tool. So we're looking at different online platforms for that credit recovery that will not be text-based. Odyssey-ware is just text-based. There's no instructor. So looking at that for credit recovery for summer, there will also be, in all prior summers, we've had intensive math support. So we will look to continue our math support, and we will add in literacy support as well. As you might imagine, it's harder to get high school students to attend support. They really just have to focus on credit recovery because they do need to work towards those graduation requirements. That said, when we're doing our data analysis right now with STAR and even some of our SAT and PSAT data, we are looking at what interventions need to be in place per student. So we do have a very long, involved spreadsheet that has students highlighted for both growth and achievement. And we're looking at who's getting which interventions, and which interventions probably need to either be ramped up or changed to meet the needs of those kids. So we're trying to do that in real time versus just summer, but we'll have more data at the end of May where we'll see which students still need more of those interventions. In terms of what's happening here, I have my SAC meeting on Wednesday, and so we will do our data dive for all different data points so that they can make recommendations for school improvement. Counselors have already begun meeting with students one-on-one to do course selections for next year. They hope to have most of that completed before spring break. That will allow us to then start determining sections, etc. So that we can actually have draft schedules in students' hands before they leave for summer. 80 of our students have submitted scholarship applications. That's down a little bit from years past, but it's not too far off the mark. I put in a note, I do want to give a big shout out to 2 students, Jake Doyle, who received the Chick Evans scholarship. That was in the paper, but that is a full 4-year ride to CU Boulder, which is really a great accomplishment. And then we have Jonathan Weiss, who is a National Merit finalist. So really incredible accomplishments there. We also had 16 students, and there were only 16 who tested, so 100% pass rate for their level 1 PSIA exam. So they are certified ski instructors who can take that to work around the world. So really great job for Brent Mayola's Aspen Mountain Guide School. Season C athletics start on Thursday for football, Monday for soccer and volleyball. Let's see. We are doing well with lunch, even though we have some guidelines. So we have a new lunch protocol in place, again, allowing kids that time to be supervised, but still be with a friend group. We're gearing up. We will be hosting IB exams. So we are not allowing students to have the alternative route. As a school, you had to pick one or the other. So we are testing our students. We want to have those exams in May to show where they are in terms of 2 years of hard work. We actually have a meeting about that tonight, but it'll be recorded. And then the SAT is on April 13th. So we are gearing up for that. And then we are meeting tomorrow to select our dates for the PSAT 8, 9, and 10. We're going to have those be on Wednesdays since those are remote instructional days, so it won't impact instruction as much. And we have flexibility with when we schedule the PSAT, but the SAT is decided for us. And then of course we have the CMAS, and we have a window for that as well. But again, that's the assessment that I would say our students and community we'll see what the participation rate is like during COVID for CMAS. Again, it's science, but historically students and parents have preferred to take SAT and PSAT, and we do get a fairly large opt-out on CMAS. And I think that's it. I was trying to be really fast.
Sarah, did you say that they take PSAT 8th grade, 9th grade, and 10th grade?
No, it's called the PSAT 8, 9. Thanks for asking that. We only give it to 9th graders. Certainly, I think looking forward, it would be great to start expanding that. And Theron and I have talked about that a lot. Expanding that to 8th grade, so we'd have that testing data would be apples to apples from 8th grade to 11th grade. But right now, it's just 9th and 10th.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you,
No more
Sarah.
questions? Okay.
All right. Mr. Mulberry, Dr. Mader.
Hi, good evening. I wanted to talk a little bit about our maker class and then give you an update on some other fronts. We're so fortunate to have Will Poe and Adam Good leading our maker classes, which it's an environment where students can take ownership of their education by doing and creating. This form of innovative education is now officially a movement, and we're seeing increasing numbers of school libraries transformed into maker spaces. At AMS, we have multiple spaces for innovative learning, including the Robotics Lego classroom and the maker space, both of which are downstairs in our building. The library has been targeted by a variety of teachers to become its own version of a makerspace, with the addition of a green room for filming, modular furniture, and the replacement of book stacks with collaborative workspace. I know the high school did get a grant to do some transformation in their library, and we're hoping next year or in the coming years to be able to do that as well in our library. Maker activities support language, literacy, mathematics, science, and social studies. I recently overheard Will saying to his students, "My goal in this class is solving problems, making the world a better place. No matter how old you are, you can innovate and use creativity. Creativity is inside of you." Those encouraging words led to a lesson on 3D drawing that involves step-by-step strategies to measure dimensions and accurately draw a beginner object, the letter T. Students used measurement, estimation, and accuracy to develop their drawing. Robotics is another class that invites students into STEM learning and exploration. We anticipate one robotics class per grade level beginning Q4, and we hope that the regional Lego League competition will resume next year. There may be an Aspen-only competition this year. On other fronts, the 5th grade is becoming quite stable academically as more students attend in person. As you can imagine, that's a really important piece for the 5th graders. We've seen a mid-year boost in math 5th grade, likely due to the solid implementation of illustrative math by our teachers. 6th grade has been creative in serving remote learners using dedicated substitute teachers. We've seen tremendous growth in math in 6th grade, again, due to the disciplined use of illustrative math and rigorous classroom instruction. 7th and 8th grades have been able to improve academic rigor due to their use of a non-concurrent model. We look forward to more students returning to in-person learning at the start of the 4th quarter after spring break. Interventions are firmly in place with our students, and as similar to the high school, we have a very robust spreadsheet that allows us to understand how the relationships between students' test scores and the interventions that are needed. Language Live is an easy to use and effective comprehensive literacy intervention, which we're using in the absence of a reading specialist. And I hope that we are able to hire someone for next year. It's been, as you can imagine, a stretch for our teachers, although we do have a lot of talent in the literacy realm within our staff. We're developing a rigorous placement test for next year's algebra class. The Morning Math Challenge class's online format has produced mixed results. The overall performance and scaled scores have advanced from fall to mid-year for most students, but not all. That is my report, and I welcome any questions you might have.
Liz, what are you using formative testing to determine that they're doing better in math in 5th and 6th grade? Are you doing STAR?
The STAR test, yeah.
Okay, great. That's awesome.
Beginning of year and then the middle of year test.
Thank
So,
you.
Liz, is that the same data we saw at the last board meeting, or is this different data you're talking about?
Same data that you saw at the board meeting, yeah. So 5th and 6th grade showed growth. 6th grade showed tremendous growth. Other questions? Thank you. I'll turn it over to Mr. Baston.
Thank you, Liz. Mr. Baston.
Good afternoon, everybody. I've got some really exciting news to share. We learned over the weekend that yet another AES teacher can add national board certification next to their already impressive list of accreditations. Lauren McKelly, our 4th grade teacher, learned over the weekend that she had passed her national boards. And this is always exciting and a momentous occasion, but again, for Lauren to be able to accomplish this during a pandemic, at least the majority of the work, just adds to the accomplishment and makes it even more inspiring for all of us. So I wanted to make sure you knew about that. Additionally, Lauren Nitty, our math specialist, can add certified math recovery specialists to her list of accreditations. So this requirement for completion included 100 hours of video instruction, assessment profiles, coaching sessions, and video sharing. So congratulations to Lauren Nitty and Lauren McKelly. That is really, really special. Our staff are looking forward to parent-teacher conferences this week, starting on Wednesday afternoon. As you know, we have extremely high levels of participation with our parents as we approach with a 100 days of school, which is happening this week. I also wanted to share with you that in February, AES teachers celebrated Black History Month with their students. The building was alive with rich conversations, reading and writing that celebrated prominent African Americans and African American history. And an integral part of the success of Black History Month is also the work of Lisa Mae Howard, who is our school librarian, and she's continuing her excellent work of ensuring that the AES library remains current, relevant, and rich with diverse authors and topics. Lastly, we've received a lot of good feedback around our DIBELS training, where staff members have been able to go deeper with the DIBELS application. It's a pretty amazing, not only does it, of course, is it a benchmark reading tool, but it also gets down to the very, very most detailed level of data on where to target instruction. And so that has been going really well. And we've also begun our PLC training, which stands for Professional Learning Communities. And PLCs are the bedrock of effective and efficient data-driven instructions at the grade levels. That is what I have to share out. Happy to take any questions.
Well, hearing no questions, Mr. Bastian, I'll thank you for another robust report. Thank you very much. And that concludes the superintendent's update.
Great. We will move on to reports and comments. AEA update, Stephanie, or yeah, there's Stephanie, looking great, looking awesome.
Hi, I'm gonna share my screen here. Oh, maybe. Oh, I don't know if I can. I can't share my screen. I apologize. Well, you guys have the link now, yeah? Have access to the link?
Stephanie, do you want me to share?
Yeah.
Yeah, please, Eliza, thank you so much. It's like 2 slides.
3, but the first one was more introductory.
No, it's like 2 slides and a title. Here we go. Okay, here's your AAA update. First off, I'm really saddened to hear about Vince. I've known Vince my entire career here at the Aspen School District. So I just wanted to say that, you know, he's one of the best paraprofessionals I've ever known. He's very dedicated to his job, and it's a great loss for the Aspen School District. So thank you, Vince, so much. I really appreciate it. The AEA update. So we met last week. Man, it was last week already. Holy cow. On Wednesday, February 24th, we requested a work session with the board. So AEA met with the Executive Council, met with upper administration of the Aspen School District, and 2 members of the Board of Education, Jonathan Nickel and Dwayne Romero. So the work session went pretty well. We went over some survey data that unfortunately is timely right now that discusses faculty and staff leaving the district for whatever reason. So in the work session, we brainstormed some ideas of how do we get back to the, you know, positive climate and culture? How do we keep faculty and staff interested, excited, engaged in being at the district? How do we move forward in retaining and attracting good staff? And so we talked about that at the work session. We decided that communication has always been a great thing. I think what we've learned in the past couple of weeks with AEA and the Board of Education is if we actually get together and talk some things out, it makes a huge difference. So we were able to talk about having town halls that are going to be led by members of the Board of Education. We're looking at holding those during March. I think there's a date in March. With each school building to share priorities and just have an open dialogue. I think having the staff and the faculty have access to the Board of Education in the buildings in some format or on a Zoom format in both ways would really help open up a dialogue to talk about priorities and concerns. We talk about office hours. I know that in the past we've done office hours and retreats, as we call them, and they've been pretty popular, small group and individual conversations with board members. We're looking at Monday, April 5th. As one of the potential dates. And then we thought about a workforce engagement committee will be created as a subcommittee of the Board of Education. This committee will include several Board of Education members, upper admin, and the AEA Executive Council, and will meet as needed when situations of concern arise. So instead of concerns kind of getting out of our hands or boiling over, we like to meet with a committee to sort of talk about things before they kind of run away from us, without the need for a formal vote or a work session or anything during a Board of Education meeting to keep y'all on track with your 2-hour goal. Finally, the Board of Education will look for ways to formally recognize the work of educators during Board of Education meetings. I know that Chris Bastion did a really great job of that too, and principals do a great job talking about staff and faculty that have attained certain goals. So we're going to think about ways to do staff and faculty spotlights on things that the educators and staff have done that have forwarded their careers and that are just great in general. Next slide, please. Thank you. Thanks, Eliza. Okay, in terms of legislation, AEA does a lot of work with the state that I just wanted y'all to be aware of. The two things that we're working on currently or involved on are the RANDA effectiveness ratings for educators' final effectiveness ratings. So before this whole COVID thing went on, we put a lot of MSLs or MSOs into our RANDA ratings, which basically means that we put a lot of evidence on how the students are learning. This year, those requirements are changing, and so the CDE is not going to be monitoring or collecting those measures. So basically, we still have goals, we're still being evaluated by RANDA, but we're not putting in as much evidence to direct those goals. That makes sense. And then the other legislative piece we're working on, pretty heavy right now, is the state testing waiver, which of course you guys are fully aware of. And we're just continuing to work with CEA to support Colorado obtaining the state testing waiver for this year. So we're just working with those legislators and also just our local representatives on what the bill looks like and what the waiver is going to look like. So that's pretty much your update. Questions?
I wonder if we would be able to, since Vince has 17 years of experience and he's about to leave, whether he could be one of our teacher, somebody we could learn from their teaching experience in a board meeting.
I love that.
Maybe if he's willing, I don't know if he's still up, Vince, or anyway, we could talk about that if he's willing. We'd love to honor and learn from his 17 years of experience and what we've done wrong and what we could do better. That would be an awesome opportunity, I think.
I appreciate that, Susie, and I'd be willing to discuss that. Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you, Stephanie, very much.
Yeah, if we could chime in real quick with obviously Stephanie, great overview of the discussion. Jonathan and I sat, obviously, Marnie and Stephanie, we worked through a bunch of like you said, some testy issues, frankly, and clearly by no means is this a finishing. It's frankly not even the start yet, feeling where we are, but got to get back to some level of decency and some level of kind of more frequent connection and just probably more wholesome and authentic listening. And just frankly, sometimes just having the opportunity to spend time together and just to share perspectives, and it may not even be on a particular topic or a burning priority, but just being able to spend and grow some natural relationships together. We have, I think, a good distance. I think Susan Marold has done a good job of reminding us of the kind of the brighter star that we should be focused upon, and trying to focus on getting better and trying to model how to be better. So Stephanie and the rest of the AEA leadership, appreciate you taking a certain positive perspective on these issues and helping us to get better. And I think everyone on the board wants to do that. And I know that everyone in the organization wants to be in an organization that has that attitude and that ethic. So getting back to our little coffee talks in our, office hours. And then as she described, I think Susan Marold's already volunteering to do a couple of town halls. That'll be awesome. Thank you, Susan. I'll do one as well.
Thanks, Dwayne.
Kid, right? But right. So Jonathan and Katie and Susie and Susan and I think we all need to kind of lean in together, but start modeling broader team leadership, right? Leadership as a team, not five diverse voices. And I think the organization expects that. The community definitely demands that. And I think we can improve things. We can absolutely improve things. And I think we need a little bit of time back together again and practicing some of these good communication tools. So Stephanie, thanks again.
Yeah, I really appreciate you all working together to come up with these starting points, because I think that's what they are. And I just would really encourage all of us to really take interactions with each other as opportunities to understand where that person is coming from, and to really step back and use that so that we can all work together better. And I know we can, and I know that we all feel like and know that our staff is our most precious resource, and we are so grateful to all that they do for us on an ongoing basis. We just need to keep the conversations going.
Totally agree.
Yeah, I would just add quickly, that was great summary, Dwayne and Stephanie. I would just say that also in the meeting, I think we all kind of sat down and said, hey, let's have a realization here that this has been a tough time for the world and everybody. So, like we discussed there, it's been hard on teachers, hard on students, hard on staff, hard on board members, hard on parents. There's nobody that really escaped the effects of this. And so, kind of a saying is what Susan said, how do we have conversations that help each one of us understand the perspective of the other groups as we move forward. And I think the other key thing that maybe we talked about in the meeting and the way that we would like to also focus is, now that we're coming down out of this, how do we focus on the future and all the great opportunities that we have? Because I really do think, as I've said in the last meeting and I said in the meeting to Stephanie, and I referenced when we first talked about staff, who are considering leaving. I think, if you are, it's unfortunate because I just think there's so many great things that we have for this district in front of us. So hope everybody who's thinking about that reconsiders, takes the time to listen, and takes the time to help us, build that path to what can be a really awesome future for this district. That's it.
And it's good to have you back, Stephanie. So
Thanks. I was just gonna say, Katie gets to bring the snacks. She'll do the picnic table meetings, snacks.
That was a good sandwich, I might add.
Good sandwich.
It was a sriracha mayo, I think, that did it. So
I'm telling you, it's delicious.
Back to you, Susie.
I think she's trying to unmute herself. Bottom left corner.
Yeah.
Bingo.
Okay. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. So let's move on to community school. Thank you, Stephanie. 5.2, Jeffy or Michael, who will speak?
I think I'll start off, and then I can pass the baton down the road. But I'm Jeffy Butler, and I'm the president of the Compass Board, which is the nonprofit that runs both the Aspen and Carbondale community schools. But I'm here in the capacity today to talk to the board in two respects. One is to present our annual report to the district, and the second is to engage in a board work session. So if it's okay with all of you, I think I'll dive into the work session a little bit first and then pass it on to Michael and Casey to follow up with the annual report. Does that work for your board, Susie?
Yes.
Okay. So just historically, our boards have done some really good hard work together. We worked on the matriculation of Aspen Community School students to Aspen High School. We collaborated on some local tax initiatives, and we got some great assistance from the board in our water compliance issues. I had the pleasure of working with both Susan and Katie on the ballot initiatives this fall, which was great to come together on that and to see our community at large once again come to support our schools. And then I had an opportunity firsthand on a personal level to experience the matriculation piece just this past week when Sarah Strasburger was holding a parent information session for rising freshmen. And I have a daughter who will be a freshman at the high school next year. And it was great to hear Sarah say, Aspen Community School students, you're part of the district. You don't need to enter the lottery. That was really great to hear that. So again, we've done some great work together as our boards. We want to be here today just to say thank you. And I just wanted to let you know a little bit about what our board's doing this year, and then we'll move on to the annual report. So annually Compass decides what they kind of want to lean into for the year beyond kind of operational items that we have to pay attention to. And this year we've decided to put our extra energy into fundraising and sustainability for our organization and for the community school. And for a school like ours with such a lean budget, we rely on fundraising to supplement the state and district funding. And that's about $150,000 a year for us. And that's direct fundraising from our families and community at large. About $100,000 of that is in an annual fund, which I'm really pleased and proud to say we have met our fundraising goal for our annual fund this year. And I don't know that we've ever done it this early in the year. So we've raised $100,000 for that. And then the additional 50,000 is usually through special events, and primarily our family hoedown, which is an in-person event that runs in conjunction with an online auction. And so given the year that we are in, we were nervous that we would fall short on our fundraising line items. So we decided to kind of lean into those two things. And our second thing that we're working on this year is sustainability. And we are focusing on creating a Compass endowment with the initial primary objective of supporting enhancing teacher compensation and professional development. So the board this year has really decided that fundraising is where we need to put our extra energy and time into. And I'd say we're quite happy with what we've accomplished so far this year. And I invite questions from any of your board, Susie, that might want to ask us any questions. And if there's no questions, I'll turn it on to Michael and Casey to present the annual report.
I'd love to hear the annual report. I don't have questions beforehand.
Jeffy, when's the hoedown or the virtual hoedown? What's that looking like?
So the virtual hoedown is looking like something's going to happen on May 22nd. So we will still have our online auction, and we do want to have some sort of celebratory placeholder. Maybe it's just for our younger grades, just up at the school, maybe K1, 2, and we're still going to have the ever popular chicken shit bingo and some square dancing, but it will have to be done 6 feet apart and with eyes towards 2021, 22 to really see it return to its full stature. But we're really pleased that our community has come together for, especially for our annual fund, and we're excited to still have our online auction, and we'll keep you all up to date on the exact specifics of the actual event itself, but we will certainly have the auction.
Cool. I just also want to say thank you to you and the board, and obviously the entire ACS community, frankly, the Compass community, for all of the partnering, like you referred to earlier. I think this is worth underscoring the broad collective effort that we made in terms of educating the community about the needs for the next 25 to 50 years for our respective campuses, one district, and the success of being able to get that type of response from our community, and the call to action for all of us in terms of being great stewards with those bond monies and investing, like I said, for the next 25 to 50. So bravo, really appreciate the partnering. Rock star status. Thank you.
Us too. We love being at the table with all of you, and we look forward to future collaboration. And I think it's nice to have these yearly check-ins. Sometimes it's just for us to say thank you and let's keep moving ahead, and other times it's to tackle some real issues. So just would love to keep the lines of communication open between our two boards. And without further ado, I will pass it on down to Michael and Casey.
One
And-
question for you, Jeffy, first.
Yeah, sure.
Not so fast.
Katie or Susan?
Go ahead, Susan, if you want.
I just wanted to, I echo what Dwayne said, and Jeffy, it was great, and we appreciate the collaboration on the election piece. And I also just want to make sure that we are, communicating enough. So if things are coming up, other than just once a year, we need to make sure that we're on it and we're available. So, and I know we've kind of toyed with attending each other's meetings and having some representation there, and we can kind of go back to that if we feel like that's necessary. And I also wanted to just ask, because I know the calendar piece, which maybe hasn't been as big a deal in COVID, but that was sort of a issue I think that we had talked about before, whether we were sharing our calendar items with you so that you could share it with your community. I think that's something that's important, and maybe we need to, just reiterate that with Eliza as we, have our district items on the calendar going to you as well. So
I think that's great. I think that's a great idea. And I also think too that we were doing a good job pre-COVID of attending each other's board meetings, and I think that was really a great way to kind of get a glimpse of what was going on in both venues. So we can continue to do it virtually, and then hopefully once we can get back in person, I think it was nice to actually see the faces in person. So I would
agree
like to do that as well.
Yeah, so you could share your meeting schedule with Eliza, and I mean, we don't have to do every meeting, but if we do, more than once a year would be certainly
great.
better.
And I will say too that we do feel like those lines of communication are open.
Good.
And at this point, we are just thankful that we're sitting here with you and for this collaborative work we've done.
Yeah, me too.
Great. Katie, did you have a question?
Yeah, just a quick question. And it was again great to collaborate with you outside of board duties. Just to be clear, that wasn't a board duty to running that campaign. How does it look for you guys in terms of having passed those measures and renewed them, and including the community school now in the funding of that? Do you see a little bit of relief in your, typical 150,000 that you're needing to raise every year? Is that why you're able to now focus a little more on an endowment type of scenario. Could you just speak a little bit to what that has done for the community school?
Sure. So the endowment is something that's been in conversations for a long time. And for us, that $150,000 is really, we refer to it as the mashed potatoes, not the gravy. So that's a line item in our budget that really goes towards operating costs. So being included in the ballot measures helps us be a little bit more flexible with funding and with bringing on new teachers and expanding programming. And so we can talk a little bit more about the gravy and less just about how we're going to make the mashed potatoes work. So that's been a huge thing for us. And so at a board level, we're talking with our school leader, Casey White, about how best to use those funds. But our primary goal for that money is really to be used towards staff and professional development. Our teachers make considerably less than their district counterparts. And so that's always a number and a dial that we're trying to move closer. So I would say that's where the primary part of the funding will go to.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Jeffy, I just wanted to confirm something that from at least I'm hearing it, and I think it's been accomplished. There was this divide that had been generated between kind of the two schools, at least from my perception, a couple of years back, that definitely Dwayne and Susan started making some good moves to close that gap. I just wanted to confirm that to me, it seems like we've closed it, and now we're working together as a team and as one and as a district to accomplish what's best for the kids. And I just wanted to confirm that that's the feeling that you and your staff have as well.
Yeah, and I think probably Casey and Michael can speak to that a little bit more as far as closing the gap. We worked hard. One of our goals as a board last year was to look at our salary schedule, and we've worked really hard to create a schedule that is reflective of our mission and our goals as a school. And I can say that has been accomplished. But there still does exist a gap between what our teachers make and what their district counterparts make. But I think Casey and Michael are better served to speak about specific numbers for that.
Yeah, no, I understand that part, and we still have work to do. I'm just more about working together and collaborating as kind of one team, as opposed to two independent entities, I guess is kind of what it seemed like when I first started learning about this. So
I can speak for myself and my board that sentiment is definitely felt. And I think the teachers at the community school feel very strongly that they have been welcomed in more and been part of, especially during the pandemic, of certain initiatives that you've had going at the district level. And so I know there's been appreciation from them there, and our teachers are happy. It's a great place to work, and we've been able to bump up their salaries and treat them well during a pandemic. And I think we're in a good spot.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jeffy. I'm going to go ahead and jump in. I think I've met all of you. I'm Michael Hayes, the Executive Director of Compass. I just want to emphasize for us, schooling in a pandemic has been a monumental challenge. And I need to make sure and give a shout out to, first of all, the district administration. So David Baugh, Theron Mulberry, Eliza Robeson, and the principals who I haven't worked with directly as much. It's a tough job this year. And I can imagine dropping into those new roles on their part and what that's felt like. There's perhaps been a lot of bullseyes on their back here and there. And I just want to make sure you all hear the very practical ways that we have collaborated with the district and the way that's how much that's meant to us. So, our staff received their first vaccinations recently in collaboration with the district. Dr. Baugh was critical in rolling us into the testing, the weekly testing. Our staff were part of that weekly testing. We worked very closely together in developing reopening schools plans and throwing ideas back and forth with one another. And I just want to speak to the competence, professionalism, and responsiveness of the team. in our experience there. It's been really, really exceptional. And all of that has happened in the midst of a pandemic. So it would have been really easy for, we're a tiny organization. We have 25 employees up at ACS and central admin. We're tiny and 7% of the district. It'd be quite easy to just say, we got our own issues here. You guys take care of yourselves. And that was not our experience at all. So thank you again to the administration. I also just want to give a shout out to our board. Jeffy's here. We also have a number of other board members who are on the call. I guess part of not being up in the boardroom, you don't get to see those folks, but they are here as well, listening in on the call, paying attention to what's happening. And they've, just like the Aspen board, they've put in double or triple the time. We've done more board meetings to keep people up to date, and they've had to talk with our stakeholders a lot. And it's been really hard work for the board. So I want to make sure and say thanks to them. They're a highly competent and capable group of people. I'm really impressed with how focused our organization has become on a small number of goals. We just drill down and decide collaboratively on what those goals are that we're going to work on, and we work on them tirelessly until we get them accomplished. And that, as a small organization, has proven pretty effective for us. We look around for the person who's going to create the graph or the table or do the data diving, and we look around and quickly realize that that's us that's going to do it. And so there are a lot of unsung heroes that are doing that work. And so thanks for all of that. And I think that as Compass, we have some of you or all of you probably know that we have a sister school down in Carbondale, which is actually where I'm sitting right now in one of our learning centers in Carbondale, in our 1-2 learning center. And those two schools straddle two different school districts, Roaring Fork School District and the Aspen School District. And so we get to see the differences in relationships and culture and public health responses. And the primary thing that we see is the number one thing is the nurturing and developing of relationships within the organization, between individuals. It's been critical. And for us, through the pandemic, that's been really positive this year. So I want to thank everyone on your side for that. Thanks so much. Our goals are aligned across the organization. My goals as a professional are essentially the same, with a little bit different focus than the board goals. And those are farmed out to our whole organization. So everyone knows what our goals are, and they're published in every board agenda. So it's no mystery. And then we celebrate like crazy when we accomplish those things. And it's not really rocket science. It's pretty simple, actually. But I think that celebration has been really key. But, the people that I really want to thank most are, first and foremost, our families who have stuck with us. We've managed to maintain in-person learning with just a few exceptions since late August this year. And that's been the result of some tireless work starting last May with how we were going to reopen schools by our fearless leader, Casey White, and all of our educational professionals who worked tirelessly together on developing that plan for opening the schools and keeping the schools open. And if you were able to come up on the Mesa, it looks very different. We're using gymnasiums and old buildings and spread out all over the place, but we're making it work. And that's in large part because we've developed this same team, home team approach. And it's a little bit of a mantra for me, that same team, home team approach. And thanks to Casey and the whole crew. And Casey will dive into much more useful particulars about academic performance and some of the specifics of what's going on up at the school. And so perhaps we can just hold off on questions until she's through her spiel, and then we can just field as appropriate. So over to you, Casey.
Thanks, Michael. Hi, everyone. I'm Casey White. I'm the principal up at Aspen Community School, and somehow I got to go third for my spiel. So 90% of my material has been taken. I just, we really hang our hat up here on something very simple, and that is that anyone who comes through our door, we wish that they feel safe, welcome, and included. And in a pandemic, that's been a different kind of challenge. So I would just say in terms of safe, we've worked really hard on our layers of protection so that students could come to school in person. And I'm not going to lie, it's been really tough. And we've done silly things like put up tents and take them down in snowstorms. And we've done great things like look at our campus in a different way. And we're super fortunate to be small and to have the support of our entire community. And you guys are included in that. We have not felt alone. And I think that feeling, and it's hard to put your finger on it, that you can do anything because you have plenty of support, has really led us to be incredibly resourceful and united in our goals. So, we're really proud that we've had students in our building, because what we have noticed, we started on August 24th with the hybrid model where we had kids in person 2 days a week. And then late October, just in time for Halloween, we were able to get kids in person 4 days a week. And wow, what a difference in the learning. So, and that really, we found our students were divided. So in terms of being welcomed, when we were able to bring the entire groups of students together, that's where the magic lies for us. We already have very small classes. And so when we were able to do that, we were able to really jump into the special sauce of being an ACS student. I'm going to just kind of highlight a couple things. What we noticed when we received our students in the fall is that they had been reading a ton over break, which is great. We love that ambition, but they were carrying books. A first grader would be carrying a Harry Potter book. And I'm certainly not trying to squell that, but there's a science to reading just right fit books and to going through the sequence of learning. And so what we found is we had a lot of students that were showing up in terms of reading fluency. And so what we did is we crafted a goal around every student reads every day. We devoted 30 minutes of independent reading time, choice book. When I say choice, sometimes the teacher helps you make a choice into the right band of text. But 30 minutes of reading a day, K-8. And that was a change, especially in our middle school. A lot of instruction around fluent reading, a little bit of backup work in terms of the word level for decoding. And we've been able to move some students who came in slightly below grade level into the grade level range by middle of the year. We're relying primarily this year on our formative assessment. So we use the DRA3. I think I put that in one of the documents. You can take a link. You can look at the link if you're interested in really digging down into that data. And then the DIBELS happens for us K3, but we do use it for students K6 that need a little bit more progress monitoring. So in both of those measures, we've seen that initiative, everybody reads every day, to be pretty fruitful. Another thing I just want to highlight that we've been able to do this year is we just felt like we needed to unify our professional development. And so as a school, we had done some work last year that we chose to build on. Teacher clarity was a piece of it. And one of the pieces we wanted to expand on, because we weren't certain of our learning model, was engagement. Pretty much we didn't like the disengaged distance learners, and we weren't sure how long we were going to have them. So we doubled down on some school-wide professional development with Core Collaborative, which I know you're working with, and we're working with a woman named Connie Hamilton, which if you haven't had a chance to meet her or spend any time on her work, I would certainly look it up. Hacking Questions is her most famous piece of work. But really what she's about is it's a war on the I don't know, or the non-response, because when a student is disengaged, they're certainly not learning. And so she has been working with us. We've had almost 11 hours of professional development with her, developing common language and common strategies, some tools that help us in the distance realm, but just good, solid classroom practices. And that has been really exciting. It's been exciting for me to sit in the seat of the learner with my staff and to embed it into staff meetings, but it's also been just exceptional to do it together. And I think that has really gone a long way for us this year. Is we're putting up tents and taking down tents together, and we're also figuring out how to engage those would-be disengaged learners. Let's see, and I have to put in a plug because it's my passion is the social emotional. So we're in our 7th year of a teacher developed at ACS social emotional learning vision. And we're just continuing to expedite that with greater and greater fidelity, whether it's through all school meetings or infusing it into lessons. And we are really seeing the fruits of just a really solid common base of understanding about how you manage your own emotions and how you interact with others and how you conquer problems and what your role is in this world as kids are learning more and more about the true turmoil that's out there. So I'm really proud of that work. And now that I've really spoken all about things I'm super excited about at ACS, I just want to say a shout out to a number of you that have worked with me this year and our entire team. So Eliza, you've kept me saying a number of times, and Dave, I can't say enough great things about you. Adric, it's been awesome to have your collaboration in the special ed realm. I love working with Chris and Sarah over at the elementary school. Liz, you've helped me a bundle of times with figuring out computer stuff, really has been great. And it's nice to see all you board members up here supporting the schools. So thank you.
Can I ask a quick question, Casey? You mentioned the 30 minutes of reading every student in school, or that doesn't include at home, right? That was in school reading?
In school, but we do require 30 minutes a night at home. It's hard to require it, but we ask for it.
And that's K through 8, 30 minutes in school and 30 minutes at home. Cool.
True.
Great. Any other questions? That was awesome. We can, if there are no other questions, we can move on to student services.
Yeah,
No, I just would say I'm really just so happy to hear about all of the collaboration between your school and us, and I'm just really grateful for that. So glad it's working.
Finally.
And correct. Congratulations on doing a great job. Can't let that go by.
Thanks, Casey. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate your continued leadership. You guys got a great team up there. Well done. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we look forward to meeting with you guys again. It's great news. All right, so we'll move on to 5.3 student services. Adric.
So I'm going to try to drive and share my screen, but I'm not nearly as good as driver as Eliza. So if I screw up, it's all her fault. So. Okay, can you guys see it?
Yes.
Outstanding. Well, as you know, this is Aspen School District. It's student services update for the 2021 school year. And digging through our past presentations, I found this department mission that I think is still relevant and meaningful to what student services does. You know, our mission is to provide an inclusive education experience that prepares each child from birth through 21 to contribute to his or her community in a meaningful and positive way by providing specialized instruction, allowing for individual differences and developing independence. To me, that still, hits true in regards to exactly what we're doing and aligns pretty well with, our district mission. So 5 of the things that I'm responsible for this year are Exceptional Student Services, or ESS, which is special education, Gifted and Talented, which we call here our Ascent program, Multi-Tier System of Support, or MTSS, Mental Health, and then 504s. When we look at exceptional student services, the 4 topics that I'm going to talk about is our staffing, our students, our indicators that we are, as a district, are rated on by the state, that also go up to the feds, as well as our current work. So starting off with staffing, just so you know, we have 0.8 FTE teacher in our preschools. That is our early childhood special education teacher. The other 0.2 of her is our child find coordinator. We also have 4 full-time paraprofessionals working with our students there. In the elementary school, we have 3 full-time special education teachers and 6 full-time paraprofessionals helping all the students there. And last time I looked, there were 58 students with disabilities there. In the middle school, we have currently staffed at 3 FTE special education teachers and 6 full-time special education paraprofessionals there, and there's 40 students with disabilities there. At the high school, we have 5 full-time special education teachers and 2 full-time paraeducators there, and there are 54 students there. District-wide, to help support all this, as well as to support the community school, we have 6 speech language pathologists. We have 2 school psychologists. We have 1 occupational therapist and a 0.1 physical therapist here that we're working with a community provider. We also contract with the Colorado River BOCES for an audiologist when we need it, as well as a teacher of the deaf if we have any students there. Next one, going into students, when I start looking at the number of students that we have within our district with disabilities, that number has gradually increased. I know I saw something a while ago that said probably 10, 15 years ago, we had like, I don't know, like 20 students. Now we're up to about 170 students just looking at Aspen as a whole compared to Aspen Community School. And the amount of students with disabilities has increased while our student population as a whole has stayed the same, or thereabouts within about 10 students. And looking at our indicators, the state looks at 14 different state indicators that we have. In a sense, they collect this and put it into the state network, in a sense, and put it towards the Fed. So in 2 of these indicators, one is a performance indicator and one is a compliance one. So performance is really looking at student growth and whether or not they're progressing and growing. And then compliance indicators is whether or not we're really truly following the laws and the timelines that they set forth. So there were 2 indicators that we didn't quite meet the expectations on. The very first performance indicator was our preschool students. What is required there is every student that comes into our program and is listed on an IEP, we do an initial entry evaluation, and then as soon as they leave the system, we get to do an exit interview kind of evaluation to sort of see where they're at. And our students didn't quite grow as much as we would expect or wanted to in the area of behavior. However, I'm going to link that to COVID and the simple fact that there were 4 months that we weren't able to really work with any of these students before they transitioned off into kindergarten. That is something that we started working with Caitlin Hawk, who is our early childhood teacher, to start thinking about those behaviors. The one compliance indicator that we didn't meet was there was one student that we initiated an initial evaluation. COVID hit, so we stopped the evaluation. Then the student left us, and then the student came back to us. And it was more of not us not doing what we needed to do. It was more of here's the paperwork trail of a kid, hitting COVID, us not being able to do the evaluation, then moving out of the school district, and then coming back to us. So for me, those are not a big issue or a big deal. When I look at our current work as a ESS department, we're working on student rubrics to help us with future staffing needs to really understand what's going on with each one of our students. We developed a leadership team so we could work on shared leadership across our buildings and providers. We're also building consistency across our buildings to ensure that what we're doing at the elementary school is what's happening at the middle school is what's happening at the high school. We're also in the process of developing a manual for onboarding new staff. Specifically at the elementary school, we started a curriculum adoption around elementary interventions, specifically for our students with disabilities. And at the high school, we started working on our transition team development. And transition within a public school is thinking about those students 18 through 21, or students that have completed their 4 years of typical high school and still need more before they're ready to join the world. The next area is gifted and talented. Our current work within this area, I developed a leadership team. It's great to say that, but in reality, it's just the people that are working in those buildings around gifted and talented, so it sounds good. But you know, I have Emily, I have Diana, I have Jenny, and I have Julie that are helping me out with all the work we're doing there. So we're in the process of doing a gifted identification manual to help us look at all the different areas of giftedness and how we're going to be able to determine eligibility for those over what we've primarily done in the past of looking at cognition, reading, or math. We're also in the process of looking at potential parent manuals to help support this process and to explain it. One of the things that we noticed at the very beginning of the year is that we had a good elementary and middle school supports for students on ALPs or advanced learning plans. However, at the high school level, it kind of, you know, it got added on to another duty of our counselors. And what we wanted to do is be able to find some money to staff, you know, 2 positions or 2 stipends that we have for 2 high school teachers that brought our students on ALPs into their crew classes to really start working on those advanced learning plans to accomplish those goals, to build the relationships that we have. So that was awesome work by Sarah that helped me work on that. I'm used to typically throwing out an idea and then thinking about it next year. And Sarah said, okay, let's do it by next semester. So it went a lot faster. So thank you, Sarah. I appreciate that. Also, we're in the process of applying for funding to cover our screening costs. So we are required to evaluate or to screen all students in 2nd and 5th or 6th grade using the COGAT. And from what I hear, we have never applied for that cost to cover that. And it's due April 15th. So I'll be working on that shortly. When we look at multi-tier systems of support is another thing. This year I applied for the EASY grant as a result of some other things. So it's federal funding. We were able to bring in $135,000 to our school district over the next 3 years. And that allowed us to get some state support. They call it the COMTSS process. So what they're going to be doing is the state's going to come in working with our leadership team. Our leadership team is going to start going out and supporting or building, you know, making our MTSS sustainable over time and consistent across buildings. And that's just starting. We had our first meeting last week. The next thing that I'm responsible for is our mental health. So one thing that we started is having monthly meetings with all of our counselors and school psychologists together, working on kind of our vertical alignment in regards to how do we, in a sense, deal with crisis, how we deal with threats, as well as what is our practices about social and emotional learning. During this group, we also reviewed our partnership with Mind Springs. And we've been working hard on, you know, making sure that we're trying to meet all the needs of all our students, regardless of which learning environment they're in. And the last thing that I'm going to talk about is that I'm in charge of is 504s, or this is part of the American Disabilities Act. Basically, I've been attending meetings. I've developed a training to roll out next school year. We're in the process of evaluating and looking at new platforms to actually write all our 504s in. So it's a little bit more compliant than the paper pencil one that we have. And I'm representing us as a school district in our OCR and legal for OCR and any legal representations that we have. So, and that's it. Do you guys got any questions?
I have a couple. quick ones, real quick. You mentioned that we're going to look for 2 new positions at the high school to help identify or help educate the GT kids. So in the past, I just wanted to understand, I know it was considered to be part of the IB coordinator's job to attend to GT kids. Was that found not to be adequate? Was that
It wasn't.
not to be meeting their needs?
Yeah, sorry, it wasn't 2 new positions. I mean, one of the things that Sarah did fabulously is thinking about our crew groups to begin with. So in a sense, taking our crew individuals that are already working with our students and finding someone that would be interested in kind of helping support more of the GT component of that for students in 9th and 10th grade. Our IB is still doing, the 11th and 12th graders that are kind of looking at the IB, diploma kind of tracked. So it's really stipending some of the individuals that we already have within our system a little bit more because it takes a little bit more work for them. So it's not really like it's a new position. It's paying people a little bit more to do more work.
And it's specifically for the 9th and 10th graders. Is that
Yes.
correct? Okay. Okay. And then my next question was, I just added up the 58 kids at SPED or kids at the elementary, the 40 at the middle, and the 54 at the high school, and I got 150. And then you mentioned that we have 170 kids with disabilities. So are the extra 20, are those from pre-K or are those other disabilities that don't fall into SPED?
Nope. They are preschool, as well as, we have a responsibility to provide support and services to students that are in private schools. Underneath, they're not listed as a student with an IEP or an individual education plan. We write an individual student plan for them. So those numbers are included as well.
Okay. And then my last question was, you mentioned that previously we had used the criteria of cognition, reading, and math, but that we're going to be switching. And so I guess that was sort of teacher recommendation, teacher referral.
Yeah, there's still, a teacher recommendation that allows us to really explore giftedness as a whole. When I look at gifted as in Colorado, there's other areas of giftedness that we haven't really been looking at, such as athleticism or leadership or language. And those are the things that we're kind of going to dive into a little bit more about how are we as a system going to determine someone's gifted in those areas over just collecting a body evidence of a student that scores at the 95th percentile on the CMAS and the 95th percentile on the STAR and has a teacher report of this and a COGAT score, saying that they're really good. So it's just kind of expanding our options. I mean, we're in the process of determining a student's giftedness of a 4th grader in the area of music this year right now. So it's kind of interesting. Before we have the manual, we're kind of putting the cart ahead of the horse, but here is a parent request and that we're going to go through and do what we need to for our students in Aspen.
That was really an awesome presentation, and it was so much briefer than the 30 minutes we allotted you. That was amazing. It's wonderful.
That's my goal.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions?
Thanks, Adrian.
I have one. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Susan.
No, I just was saying thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for that. I think it's been quite some time since we've heard from your position, so before you as well. Question on the social emotional learning. You mentioned briefly vertical alignment. Can you speak to that a little bit? Because I've certainly heard a big push in the last few months as we've been going through COVID that that's a priority. And how are you coordinating with the different schools to have sort of the Aspen approach toward how we're addressing the various mental health issues with the pandemic?
Well, that is a great question, Katie. And we're at the very beginning stages of looking at it and evaluating what are we all doing and how does it work together? How does it align with our state standards and expectations as a whole? So we haven't done, I can't answer your question because we haven't gotten to that point of doing that. I know, our partnership with, sounds like you, yep, go for it, Katie.
Oh, no, I was just getting
Okay.
ready to say something.
So it's really, for me right now, until I'm able to dive into it a little bit more, it's more or less, where are the needs of our kids? How are we doing this? I'm sharing resources with all of them. So it's very, very high level, and we haven't dove into the specific work to ensure that have a good scope and sequence and ensuring that our students are, obtaining what they need to by the time that they leave our system. But that's a plan.
Something I'd love follow up on in a couple of months when you're ready. And then my other question was related to on the Ascent program and how programming has been addressed through through the pandemic, through remote learning, at all grade levels, recognizing that our traditional concept of pulling kids into a group to whether it's to do robotics or to do great books or whatever they're doing is probably a little more difficult. I'm curious how that programming has changed to accommodate those kids' learning plans as we've gone through the last few months.
Well, for me, I think about gifted students as they're not just gifted when they get pulled out to do a math enrichment or when they do robotics or they do something else. They're gifted in every class during every period of the day. We need to continue to have those types of enrichments and those activities of robotics. However, we also need to start thinking about how are we using our gifted individuals or our gifted teachers that are experts in giftedness to help coach and help, mentor other teachers when they're in a language arts class or when they're in a math class or a science class or a social studies. So it's going to take some time, but the goal is that's where we want to get it, where they could have some, direct pull out and support of students, but then also having some time to help coach and support other teachers within our system around how are we going to differentiate students or differentiate the needs of our students. When you going back to your specific question around kind of the supports and services for kids, I think it's been kind of hit and miss depending upon, the class and when we could do that. I know at the middle school, Emily is working hard and she has, 6 groups of kids that she's seeing during the day over the different blocks and supporting them there, as well as pushing in on a few others. She's also working on, doing some intervention stuff with Cassie up there. I know Julie, because she hasn't been able to come into school based on some other issues there, she's doing a lot more of the remote kind of group stuff and trying to do the best that she can to still engage these students in the same types of things that she would if she was in person, but it's just hard remote wise. I know the high school starting crew this second semester and grouping those students together. I've heard nothing but fabulous things from the teachers about how great it is to actually work with these kids and to start thinking about the future. So I think it's different. It's not the same, but I wouldn't say that the quality is any lower than what it was before.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you so much. And if
I had a question. No, Eric, did we have any mental health statistics from the Valley on kind of how this whole crisis has impacted the kids? I mean, I haven't found, you see lots of articles, like there was one recently in the New York Times about the emergency room pediatric visits and things like that, but I don't know. I've just never seen anything here in the Valley that's publicly available.
I haven't seen anything specific, John. I could definitely do some digging and try to find that out. My first stop is going to be Mine Springs and start to see, as well as DHS to determine are more referrals coming in, and if so, what does it look like from there? So, I haven't noticed it from our staff saying, it seems like it's the same amount of concerns that we had before. They're a little bit different. And then how do we respond to them seems to be the biggest change that we need to really ponder. If students aren't in the building, it's harder to interact and to determine the level of crisis or threat that they're in.
Okay. And then, I guess this is probably more a question, I don't know, for you or for Dan, since you're on the student side. Then just as on the staff side, we've made sure that all those resources are available and everybody knows how to reach out and get them, right?
Yeah, so I can speak to that a little bit. I think it's probably a fair statement that we can always do a better job of education, but to the extent we've had opportunities to share that, we've certainly endeavored to do so.
Okay, all right, thanks, Dan. Thanks, Eric.
So that was awesome. Can if no more questions, we can move on to the bond update. 6.1, I believe Linda will be leading this.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Things are moving along on schedule on our bond. You'll have on this meeting, we have to approve the owner's rep contract. That piece is on. I am working with RBC diligently getting our POS, preliminary offering statement, out and to the rating review. Please note that on the next board meeting, bond counsel will send the perimeter resolution, or the perimeters of the resolution to the district in the board packet. So look for that on the next board meeting, that it's on there on the schedule. And we're moving on schedule. I don't have any hiccups yet. We're going to move forward with a full issuance of this bond, the full amount of the 94.315 that we were authorized to sell. I sent one message out just in consultation with Dan O'Connell and the way what rates are doing at the moment. We thought this was the most prudent thing to do going forward. And that is it. I think I covered most of my, and in record time. Susie should be pleased. Any questions?
We probably need to have a quick conversation about the entire tranche going out in terms of community broad public conversation here, recognizing that we've had a series of conversations about the notion of breaking it apart. I understand the situation as you describe it, the bonds market and the rates, and how they've obviously in the last 20 or 30 days markedly moved back up, and frankly they've erased most of the reductions that we saw over the last 12 months. So we probably need to describe what are the mitigating circumstances that we can exercise to ensure that community dollars are best spent effectively and obviously efficiently, the time frame that we're now faced upon, and how do we ensure that we maximize the benefit and value of those dollars and minimize any particular paybacks on the interest rates or otherwise. And I think, again, it's good for the public to hear this. So if you guys don't mind, give a little bit of a backstory on that analysis and conclusion.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll try to be as clear as possible in a kind of confusing explanation, if you will. But so basically, the way it works is if we, in the first 3 years after your bond issuance, you're free and clear on spending. But the last 2 years, in years 4 and 5, if interest rates were to go crazy and we were to invest money in something that that ends a high yield of percentage back, which is more than what we are actually paying on the debt, we would have to reimburse that difference to the IRS. So there's different you don't have to give any of the bond proceeds back, but you have to give some of the interest to the IRS. There's different points of view on that. Some view that they say, yes, school district, you're doing a really great job being good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars and investing them in the highest possible return that you can get with safety. So that's years 4 and 5, or since we go to full issuance, years 4 and 5 will be the ones we'll have to watch and see how much we have and how much we're earning, and for those 2 years. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. So there's a built-in pacing mechanism that's built into the law to ensure that districts effectively and quickly, frankly, get to the expenditure and the use of funds as provided for in the language, the enabling language of the bond passing. So we're internally consistent with our promises to the community, but so there's a bit of a giddy up factor. And if you fail to stay on pace in terms of your effective consumption, then you're right. Then the margin that you may have done in the arbitrage there has to be returned back to the IRS. The good news, like you said, Lynn, and I think it's worth underscoring, is that there's no actual penalty or excess fee there. But that's not really the purpose of the issuance of these bonds and the request that we made to the community to underwrite and support these bonds. It really does come down to having a very, very, I think, robust and complete business plan and investment, and if you will, kind of construction and investment plan that ties back to the original purposes of the bonds. So Dave, some editorial or some feedback from you, a little assurance to the community right at this point, I think it would be helpful to describe your views of that strategic plan, that business plan to accomplish our goals.
Absolutely, Dwayne.
And maybe I would just add something, Dwayne, that maybe not everybody understands. So that as interest rates go up, the amount of proceeds that we will get from the bond sale goes down. So that's the interest in going out quickly. A lot of people think that the interest rates are going to double from here potentially, and so that would be lost revenue that we would not be able to use for all the things that Dave is going to describe right now. So that's why we're considering going out for the full amount immediately.
Good point.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Yeah, exactly. And in robust conversations with Linda and our architects of record, the district had mapped out almost $190 million in spending. So in conversation with Linda and the internal team to some extent, we thought it prudent to go to the street now to get what we can. We don't actually see, I can't believe I actually say this, but I think we'll be able to spend $93 million in 3 years on, and we've always talked about it in terms of buckets, but there's the facilities renew or refresh, right? And then there's the conversation around new construction, specifically around the cottage and possibly the bus barn. And then of course, the biggest nut is employee housing, which we're firmly committed to. And, to Susie's earlier comments about the committee for the new housing, it's been Dan or myself negotiating rentals, trying to purchase some properties that probably aren't going to happen, negotiating on some dirt down valley so that we can put some decent homes up for our crack teachers, who are candidly working really hard. So spending $93 million, I'm flabbergasted that I get to say, I think we can do that in 3 years, certainly within 5, on the priorities that we identified when we went to the polls in November. We were very specific in what we were saying, and 500 words or less. We said we're going to spend it on X, Y, and Z, and we're interested in net zero. We've got some, starting tomorrow, assuming the consent agenda moves forward, we're going to work with our owner's rep about getting RFPs out to get the roofs fixed so that the leak in the science department goes away. It's been there for years, and the air handling upgrades to where we're actually heating the air as we put it into some of the spaces. So, there's some basic stuff we have to do. And then there's some really nifty advanced stuff that puts Aspen School District, out on the front edge. So that's why we're recommending going for the full bond issuance, as well as the economic factors that were so articulately put forward this evening.
Yeah.
The cost of the money is just going to go up moving forward. The other thing is, and Dwayne, you certainly know this from a construction perspective, costs are going up. The cost of steel is spiking as we speak. So there will be, we need to get going. Many market sectors were hit hard by COVID, but construction doesn't seem to be one of them.
So if I could just add one thing, just to summarize it in general for the public, the costs of waiting now are greater than the costs of going out sooner for the money. It was never a question of whether we would issue the bonds, but the timing. And as interest rates go up, it's expensive to wait. And the cost of holding extra money between year 3 and 5 is much less than the potential cost of the increase in interest. So that's kind of the very high level financial impact summary of it.
Perfect.
Agreed.
Great. Thank you. Any other
Thank you.
questions or comments? Great. Thank you all so much. Let's move to, and Linda, thank you so much. 6.2 March 15th agenda items. We have the calendar, bond update, bond resolution, DAC update, summer school update. Dave, do you think you'd be ready to monitor OE 9 through 12 and 14 and 15? Those are ones that we thought we wouldn't need to review, just go through the monitoring.
Yeah, we're scheduling a meeting with the people that are affected, and Liza and I spent some time on it today. We hope to bring those forward at the next board meeting. But we're scheduling that meeting so that we can do it, get it done.
Mute. No, this is good. Okay. So any other items people want on the next meeting, or shall we move on to action item 7? Annual agenda planning, approve, let's see. Regular board meeting. Oh, we've changed the board meeting schedule to Tuesdays. So that's what we need to vote on.
Yeah, and just to note, that would be starting in April. So there's only a handful of meetings left. But the Tuesdays would be starting in April. We would still keep our 15th meeting of this month. And then I also put on there, Susie, if you don't mind me asking, the April 5th, we're going to have some office hours for the board. I just kind of want to get a feel from you guys if you want me to schedule out blocks and work with you individually to see if you can come in 1 or 2 hour chunks, 2 at a time at max, or else if you guys had other ideas.
No, that sounds good. I think. Wait, Dwayne, did you have?
So just anytime during the day. I think in the past, we've tried to make it so that all staff members, I don't know what size of meetings we can accommodate with the COVID conditions, but in the past, we've been able to, gather in one of the auxiliary gyms or something like that with, after school, so that teachers can feel like they've got the opportunity to really connect.
Yeah. The 5th is a pretty unique day. It's the day after spring break, so we won't have students.
Oh, that's right.
All staff. So we're going to do a BOE breakfast in the morning, and then we'll roll into that. But I'll make sure there's individual rooms so people can break out.
That's going to be a good day. I've got that. You're right. I forgot about the work day after spring break. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. I'll send that out.
Great. So we could vote on that, or we can move on to the electronic participation in school board meetings. Yes. DEAA. And has everybody had a chance to review that policy?
So
But
just
did
as,
it change, Susie? It's the same one we voted on before, right?
correct. It's the same one we voted on before. It's just kind of for reference about how we changed our meeting structure. Last meeting, we talked about how we can possibly do a little bit more in-person versus remote. So I just wanted to kind of bring that back up just to start the conversation. I talked to Chris Durham, and he's still working, and we have final proposals for the boardroom outfitting, but we do have the capabilities whenever you guys would like to start having people here in person, at least 2 or 3 at a time, if not full. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, I think we had, at least we talked about this in the AEA meeting as well. And kind of, I think the position we came down was we should follow the protocols that are established, just like we're asking everybody else to do, and that they would let us know when it would be the right time to be able to come back and do that in person. So I think that's the, the kind of the general rule we had discussed we should follow. And then I think as far as that particular policy, I would like, if we're going to continue moving on with this, I think we should adjust that one a little bit, in terms of it was kind of set up for an emergency thing that nobody thought was going to last for very long. And I think what we're looking for is to be able to have participation and kind of independently, if the board is there in person, that people can, that somehow we manage to have Zoom or something else in kind of electronic format and wider participation as we go forward. So maybe that's something to put on to discuss in the future, and at the same time adjust it. Because I think mine and Katie's concerns as far as moving to Tuesday was that there's some language in there that kind of, I don't know, just makes it a little more complicated. It's like, unless it's for, extenuating circumstances that the president of the board said the meeting had to be, virtual, then you can only do it twice a year. And there's just some
Jonathan,
things
can
that
you
probably
revise, can you propose some revised?
Yeah,
wording?
I'll be happy to do that if you send it to me, Eliza, and I'll share it with Katie so that, and everybody, and then we can approve it at an upcoming meeting.
So
You
let's
maybe did that before, Jonathan. I think you had a proposal.
Yeah, I think I did. But then we ended up approving this one just because it was kind of the standard. So I can go back and look.
Yep.
Yeah, so let's not vote on that one today.
And as far
Well,
as
I don't think we need to. It hasn't changed. So, right?
no, we're still under the emergency one, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. And as far as it goes, as far as the discussion around having the board meetings in person, I think there is a hybrid option that might be valid, but I want to make sure that as we're considering this, we're considering the community at large who has been participating in our meetings quite extensively for the last 12 months. So if we are to move to an in-person type of thing, we're not going to be able to accommodate them as we have on the Zoom call. So, whatever we come up with, we need to make sure that we are doing that in a robust way.
Yeah, I thought that we had said that before, whereby we committed. You're absolutely right. This platform opens up so much more, and we want to carry it forward. So it's kind of a hybrid, where some of us are in the room, and maybe some of us are on the Zoom, and the rest of the world is on Zoom, and we increase our communication with the community. Yeah.
Our current policy doesn't accommodate for that, though,
Right.
Dwayne, which
So
is why.
So I thought Jonathan was going to give us some tweaky.
Yeah, but not just for us, also for the community. So it's not just about the members who need to be physically present there.
I agree. Yeah.
I know I said that up front, Katie. Yeah, that was what I was referencing to in terms of we had committed to kind of continuing Zoom, I guess would be the way to say that.
Great, we're all in agreement. Thank
Okay.
you, Jonathan, for tweaking the words. And so let's not vote on that. Let's discuss 7.2, if there's a need for a discussion on the owner's rep contract.
I think we need to approve the meeting schedule and the office hours, right, Eliza?
Correct. We just have to approve first the meeting schedule, changing to Tuesdays rest of the year starting April, and then we will have board office hours. So if we could just do a quick vote on that, then we'll move just down to 7.2 real quick.
I was going to try one of Dwayne's tricks where we put them all on the consent agenda, but we can vote piecemeal. That's fine.
Just question about office hours. Are we approving those if we're doing individual office hours with people? That's not a meeting.
I think it's just because we're getting the board in front of staff. I just wanted to put it out there. We don't have to necessarily vote that we're doing it, but just to let people know that we've discussed it and that's our plan as a whole.
Okay.
Can we just list it as a, I don't know, working session the day after, and that way the board saying in general, the board will be meeting with teachers and that. I mean, if we're all going to be there, just putting something like that, just so the public knows. I mean, that's what we need to advise on, right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
basically, there's more than 2 board members that are going to be together in a group with the staff at the school in a working session. It's not a formal meeting. It's just, but we have the right to make sure everybody knows that that's what's happening, or we have the obligation, not the right.
Well,
yeah.
Are we turning it into a formal meeting where the public can come? Because that wasn't the intention, right?
No, there will only be, Jonathan, there should only be 2 board members at a time.
Yeah.
In the same place.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Good.
So let's just vote on, can we have a motion to vote on the regular board meeting schedule change?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, quick roll call. Katie Frisch.
Aye.
Susan Marolt.
Aye.
Jonathan Nickel.
Aye.
Dwayne Romero.
Aye.
And Susie Zimmett.
Aye.
So moved. Thank you.
Now, let's go to 7.2, and Dwayne, or who would like to discuss the owner's rep? Dave? Contract, if any, unless everybody's read it and everybody's ready to vote.
I'm ready.
Anybody want a discussion?
I would just like a brief overview of the process whereby we got here for the community so that we know that it's not just,
Dave, you want to do that?
Sure. Yeah, happy to do that. Yeah, we followed the RFP process. We put it out on the street. Linda advertised in the normal circles. We received, I believe, 9 submittals, 8 or 9 submittals. The committee whittled them down. We interviewed finalists. We asked for clarifying information. We checked references, and then we are making the recommendation to go with SiteLogic, who did our bipolar ionization this fall.
They've got local representation as well, right, Dave? They've got a piece of
Sure.
local experience, which I think, from the community's perspective is going to be very important in terms of quick understanding of the nuances and the kind of the just the way things sometimes are done around here. We can kind of cut through that effectively, and especially on the housing and any of the new construction stuff. There'll be some, I think, some benefit there. SiteLogic, right, has got super horsepower in energy conservation and rehab, as well as new development. Dave, you've got a track record with them as well, so we've got a lot of confidence in their abilities to perform.
Yeah, that's well said and very helpful insights. Yeah, we're very comfortable with the national bench depth that SiteLogic brings to the conversation, and then with the local representation, very veteran teams coming together to advocate for the district.
We also really like the SiteLogic student involvement piece. They were really strong in getting our students involved in the process along the way.
That's
Good
a really
point.
good point.
Yeah.
That was one of their really bright spots that helped distinguish them from a really competitive crowd. We were very pleased. It was not unlike the principal search where we had some good candidates going down to the wire. But SiteLogic is a veteran company, and they are good at including students and student voice in the process. They were also the company that took school to net zero. First school in the country to go to net zero for energy usage. So they had a couple of pieces that we thought would really complement the goals of this bond.
Is Mr. Fox, our student energy expert, involved in this? Has he met with this committee at all?
Well, we need this approved tonight for us to get that meeting set up, but we are having a preliminary conversation with Mr. Fox, Mr. Kelleher from AMS, and Aspen Core for a preliminary discussion around our goals for moving towards net zero. And that is actually scheduled for tomorrow. But yeah, Mr. Fox is the student voice on this project, and he's also been recruited by the Aspen Institute to speak at an Earth Day conference. He'll probably be the panelist representative and speaking towards where the district is trying to get to with this initiative. So, not only is he incredibly competent, but he's adding a whole lot to his resume this year. And that's the need of COVID. And I want to thank, Dana Barrow and Chris Kelleher over at AMS for being so passionate and holding this net zero goal up and shining light on it for years. So the two of them have been working on this for quite a while, and they're to be saluted for developing this kind of passion in our students.
Well, that's great. Let's hurry up and vote on this so you can have your meeting tomorrow.
That would be great.
So can we ask for a motion to approve this?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, quick roll call. Katie Frisch,
Aye.
Susan Barolt,
Aye.
Jonathan Nickel,
Aye.
Dwayne Romero,
Aye.
and Susie Zimmett.
Aye.
So moved. Thank you.
So now we'll move to the consent action items. Do we have, Dwayne, before we vote on this, did you have anything to say about the real estate?
I actually wanted to hear about that, Susie, just so.
Yeah. Just a quick thumbnail overview on our obviously current status. There's a piece, well, there's actually 3 pieces of property. Dave alluded, a Mid-Valley property, a new neighborhood. It gives us the opportunity to buy these 3 home sites that are approved for duplexes. So the potential there is for 6 residences. The purchase price is quite reasonable when you look at it from any perspective, including from the perspective of a per key acquisition price. We've asked, obviously, for Susie to sign the contract. We're now into a diligence period, which enables us to do all the proper underwriting precedent to going hard into the contract, title, and legal matters, as well as HOA and other local homeowner association stuff that we need to make sure, and kind of the obligatory utility type services for sewer, water, power, and the tap fees associated that would run with that local jurisdiction, which in this case is the town of Basalt. We have 3+ weeks from this point to go forward with that diligence and underwriting. We have Blake Appleby, who has assisted the district in the acquisition of our old Snowmass properties, if you guys recall, almost 2 years ago. So Blake is going to assist. We obviously have our district counsel in the form of Dick Bump to make sure that title and other legal property underwriting is completed. And I'll assist as well. Then clearly with the owner's rep and local representation within that firm, we can rely and lean on that team, as well as our architects of record in terms of any potential kind of initial drafting, just conceptual. We don't have to go into any construction documentation, but just conceptually to conceive of some residences that might fit some of the survey feedback that we have had across the organization, to find fit and function for the residences that we would construct there. And again, the bonding that we talked about just a few moments ago gives us the fuel and the energy to get this thing purchased and then quickly design and then construct it in a pretty efficient manner. Ideally, if everything goes clear for the acquisition, we could be in construction in a matter of months and perhaps have somebody sleeping, heads on beds sometime perhaps at the outside at the end of this calendar year, which would be in the fall of next year. That's an ideal, maybe a kind of a best case schedule. Just knowing the time frame for permitting and the time frame for construction, but it's a noble and I think good fit with what we've been talking about as part of this bond and the increase of our housing stock. And the location, albeit not next door, it's still a moderate location with a great set of infrastructure of public transportation, as well as a lot of other amenities and connections right there in the Mid-Valley. So it can work. We have other properties, frankly, that are a little bit even further away than the subject property that we're speaking about tonight.
That was going to be my question. When is it? Do we own property in Basalt?
We do. Wow. Yeah, we own property in Basalt. We also lease property a little further down the road in Willits.
Yeah, that one I remember that we approved earlier in the year, but I just didn't know if we owned any housing down there. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So do we want to vote? Want to have a motion? And
I motion to approve all the items in the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, quick roll call. Katie Frisch.
Aye.
Susan Marolt.
Aye.
Jonathan Nickel.
Aye.
Wayne Romero.
Aye.
And Susie Zimmett.
aye.
So moved. Thank you.
I just have a question, Dave. If Vince Johnson's resignation is effective, which we just voted on, is effective March 5th, can we still invite, he can still come. We would love to invite him to speak to us about how we can improve. Can
Yeah,
we make that
a
happen?
public meeting, as long as he is willing, he
Yeah.
can come.
Yes, Vince?
My resignation is effective March 9th. But yes, I would be willing to come.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate that. We want to learn from you. We respect your 17 years of service very much.
Thank you.
So future agenda items, does anybody have, I'm thinking we have so many things on our plate. Do we definitely want to meet with Ann Delahan? We can discuss this another time. We have so many other things going on. Is that a priority? Do people feel?
I would say definitely how to monitor policies if we do meet with Ann, that shouldn't be the subject.
Great, we'll change that.
So if we can find time to meet with Ann. I think we had, and this is, I think, maybe something that we can discuss, and I'm not suggesting we do it right now, but basically in terms of priorities and what we have time for, I think the most important thing that Katie had pointed out was making sure we have the strategic plan, at least at a level where it can help us define the priorities as we move forward with the spending. But I think those are broadly outlined already, as Dave has mentioned. So we kind of need to understand if there's what's the need that we're going to fill and what's that gap, I guess, and what specifically would we want to get out of it. So, but I'm not proposing that we define that right now. Just
yeah, no, and is that gap that she could fill as important as all the other things we're juggling right now? But we don't have to decide now. We can just keep that in mind. Katie, you want to speak?
Yeah, no, it's not that we need to do this tomorrow. It's that I wanted to, remind everybody that we as a board we've gotten this draft strategic plan, and we've issued a bond related to some priorities, but there hasn't been a determination related to the linking the strategic plan and the facilities plan together that we have gone over and discussed, and really truly done anything other than come up with a board vision. We don't have a vision statement in our strategic plan yet. We really have, it's really not fully baked. And I'm not saying we need to do it now or we have the bandwidth to do it now. But at some point when we're looking at spending all this money, it should be tied together. And it should be, something that as a board we have gone through and, blessed, so to speak. But we have not done that. We've gotten sort of a plan that in my mind isn't really fully baked. It's not, it doesn't have a vision. We have a board vision. We haven't gone through that whole process. So from a priorities perspective, it's not something I think we need to be doing next week, next month, or maybe even in 2021. But we certainly need to make sure that we are addressing it. Especially if we don't know exactly what we want to do with everything. We haven't put forward a vision for that. So it's going to take a little bit of time to go back through, but not an urgent matter. I think we certainly have an agreement related to housing that we're going to be focused on that for the first part of that and get those long-term things taken care of.
And heating and ventilation and structural things.
Yeah, a lot of the maintenance stuff that we talked about that's, many years delayed. But we haven't gone through and said, for example, if someone says, we want to change something, we want to do X, Y, Z to the bus barn. Well, there's 15 different views of what that could be. And I don't believe, it's certainly not in my mind, we have tied together the strategic plan to the details. And I think at some point that needs to be done.
I agree. So one stakeholder has suggested we just plant some trees to hide the bus barn. That was one suggestion. It doesn't solve the problem of the pre-K busting at the seams. So yeah, I think that we should spend maybe 30 minutes at an upcoming meeting going over what we inherited, the strategic plan we inherited, and tweak it as we see fit. Does that sound like a good agenda?
I would suggest an offsite over the summer, Susie.
That's going to take more than 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dave.
I do think that maybe at the next board meeting, we could invite, Kari Ellen from the Cunningham Group and Mr. Sanchez to kind of refresh everybody's mind what the priorities were as we began the bond process, right? And the priorities for the district, because in my mind, there's kind of a roadmap in existence. And, we went to the street, we told the voters, this is what we're raising, we hope as much as 95 million. It's a shade less than that because the market's changing. But, there are certain things that were weighted pretty heavily in terms of new construction, say, like the net zero efforts. That's important. There was the theater conversation. That's important. The cottage, that's very important. And, the preliminary data suggests that if we were to build a 10-room cottage tomorrow, we could fill it with, local kids. And I believe Colorado is going to universal pre-K by 2023. At least that's one of its goals. So, there is a real demand and market for preschool, right? So I don't think it would hurt to have a 20-minute presentation from the architects about the process, the community involvement, where we are kind of in that. And then, this summer, I think Ann could help us kind of tie it a little tighter together. But I think really as we're thinking about this bond and the community's priorities that have been articulated prior to, this team getting here, there's some pretty clear priorities and hope fors and expectations from the bond, which is a different thing than the strat plan. And the strat plan is a lot of work went into that. It's got some nice buckets and some nice silos, but the work would be, I think, turning that into action. And that's where I think Ann could help us come summer, really think about turning that into action, or late spring even, rather than summer. But now that we have an owner's rep, now that we're starting to think about the money, now that the clock's ticking, I don't want to rush it, but I also don't want to wait too long either, because part of what the owner rep is going to do is help us craft airtight RFPs for this market so that we can get those roofs fixed. We can get that. The HVAC is blowing lots of great air, but right now we could use some great warm air. There is concrete, out. If you think about the steps out in front of the high school, there's exposed rebar. There's stuff that's been deferred for quite a while, and the owner's rep needs to really help us begin addressing that like yesterday. So, A, thanks for approving the owner's rep. B, I can assure you they're going to hit the ground running. But C, I really think the two things are actually kind of separate. I don't think that the strat plan is tied too tightly to the bond. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the only place I disagree with that is something, for example, if we're going to turn the bus barn into something else, what and how much space is allocated to what? Like that kind of strategic direction of where the district wants to go with some things that do still have some choice. I'm not talking about the big buckets, but I'm talking when it comes down to what are our strategic priorities within the district of the few different things that we articulated might happen to the bus barn. That hasn't been tied into a strategic plan and a strategic direction of what the vision of the school is. It's that aspect. I'm not talking about fixing stairs and all that stuff that, yes, we need to get moving on, but some of the little more esoteric stuff, I think.
And along those lines, Dave, do you know if we didn't open up our preschool to non-staff kids, would we still need those 2 classrooms in the elementary school? Would we still be busting at the seams?
We're still pretty full. And actually, I meant to send you those numbers. Simone sent them to me Friday night, and I got distracted by snowfall. So I apologize. But yeah, I'll send that to you. But we are pretty full, and there's a long waiting list. So there's a real need. I think we would be remiss not to include the open market, right? I mean, it's a real pipeline to the wonderful Aspen School District. And, probably if you start with us at 6 weeks, you'll finish up when you're 18. So at least in that scenario.
Kindergarten readiness is one of our indicators.
Yeah, and in our conversations around early literacy, people are really focusing on making sure that we're including pre-K in the conversation. So Sarah Lowe is doing a great job of folding them into the conversation. And then, I'd reached out to Simone last week, and she's definitely very much interested in the conversation.
All right, so Eliza, let's make sure that in the next meeting or two, Dave, we have a 20-minute conversation about this.
Sure. And I just want to note too that the cottage is open to the public. It's just generally a lot of staff are there.
I thought staff had priority, and then if there's spots left over, it's open to the public?
Correct. That's how it works. So typically the infant rooms will mostly be taken by staff. And then as you get older to the preschool rooms, it is taken up by anyone, and they do not have to be in district. And then Adric, I don't know if you can also explain too, the student services part of servicing for cottage age students.
Yes, so we have an obligation or a requirement to serve students that have been determined eligible or determined to have a disability and require specially designed instruction underneath an IEP for any student age 3 and above, so 3 through 21. So if we find that, we have to have a place or a classroom for them. One of the requirements that we have is really trying to break up those classrooms so they're not segregated just in students with disabilities. So they really kind of want a 30 33% split between normal developing students, students that may be eligible underneath CPP or the Colorado preschool program, and then students with disabilities. So if we think about limiting what's going on, it's going to cause some potential other issues that we, unforeseen issues in our district in regards to my workload.
Okay, shall we, any other comments on this topic? We'll move on. Okay.
I would just, one thing I think maybe we should do for a future meeting agenda item is just the board go over our priorities and see how we're doing on those. Do a little update.
I think that's always a great idea. Got that, Eliza?
Yeah, I was wondering, do you want to bake that into just board member updates, or do we want to have a whole separate section? Either one.
Maybe a separate
Than,
section.
Yeah, it's more than just board reports.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, and then Katie, will you do our debriefing?
Sure. Good meeting, very promptly run. Thank you, Susie. Always. So just a couple highlights for me. Certainly the first discussion about a summer school / summer camp, I think is exciting. And I'm looking forward to hearing more about that. And hopefully the community is starting to get the message, and it sounds like they will have a survey out shortly. And hopefully can meet some of those needs to address this, most likely potential COVID slide, as well as to give kids a social opportunity during the summer. I'm sure it's going to be an interesting summer for kids as well in terms of how they find activities to grow and learn. So I'm thrilled that we are participating in that. Also, of course, welcome to Amy, our new middle school principal. Very excited about that. I was part of that process and really enjoyed meeting all the candidates, and she definitely shone throughout the process. And so I'm super excited to have her on board. And I want to compliment Dan, most importantly, for a job well done in navigating a very, very complex process in the middle of a very complex time in town. So excited about that. Also updates, and great to hear about our additional teachers in the elementary school that are doing some great stuff and increasing their level of certification. So also super enjoyed the community school update. I'm not sure they're left here anymore. They're probably gone by now. But that was great to hear that yearly
Jeffy's
update.
still here. Jeffy's still on.
Oh, there's Jeffy. Okay. Really excited to hear how well they're doing, and I think that they are, continue to be a good partner and a model for us to look to for some alternatives in education in our valley. So yeah, great, and I'll stop talking so you can finish on time. So thank you, Susie.
So thank you, and we're going to have an executive session. So I'm going to call for a motion to move into executive session as authorized by CRS 24-6-4024F for discussions regarding personnel matters. The motion, so we'll need to have a second and a roll call. So can we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and to do a quick roll call, Katie Frisch.
Well, just one question. Did you not need to read that entire section out, Susie?
When we get in.
Yeah, when we start, I read the longer one, and when we.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Aye.
Susan Morrill.
Good idea. Yes, aye.
Jonathan Nickel.
Aye.
Dwayne Romero.
Aye.
And Susie Zimmett.
Aye. So
Okay.
now we go to the Google.
Yes. Please go to the Google link that I shared with you, and then please also exit this Zoom meeting. And I'll meet you in the Google where we will reconvene and have a formal motion again.
And just for the public to know that then we will come back to the public meeting and adjourn, just so everybody knows that.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
And that separate address was shared via
Google. I'll just send you a quick email again.
How did you send it?
Thanks, everyone.
It was a Google invite.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
So you're gonna make faces now, Eliza?
I've never been one of the early ones.
You were really fast.
I was clicking and clicking.
Yes.
Katie, so-
Long time no see.
Mm-hmm.
So Eliza, it was, Dwayne said 7:48 was our.
Perfect. 1, 2.
There he is.
And Jonathan.
You guys could actually just adjourn the meeting without.
Oh, right.
Jonathan.
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Not everyone talk at once here. All right. Katie Frisch,
Aye.
Susan Merle,
Aye.
Jonathan Nickel,
Where's Jonathan? We're voting to adjourn, Jonathan.
Say aye.
Aye.
Dwayne Romero,
Aye.
and Susie Zimmett.
Aye. That wasn't like leading the witness or anything, was it?
No, not at all.
Oh.
No.
Thank you all very, very
Thank
much.
you.
Awesome.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, guys.